Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this battlefield snapshot, we're going to explore the older version of Lord of the Rings, published in 2001 by GW. Welcome to Battlefield Snapshots. In this short game, I am using some old rules in my Wargame Vault. These are published in 2001 by GW, and it's the Lord of the Rings game. I have all three books, and so I decided to try out the rules and play a little game of Middle-earth. So here are the orcs. There's 113 points of orcs. Right in front is Gorbak, and he is considered a hero. He has Might 2, Will 1, Fate 1, and he is carrying an orc sword. He is a captain of Dol Guldur. And next to him is another group of orcs. We see them there. And then here we have a number of orcs in his warband as well, including 4 archers. And here is 113 points of the Galadrim or Lothlorien elves, which the book simply refers to them as wood elves. So we have for our 113 points of elves, we have wood elf warriors. They have two-handed swords here. And then we have an elf captain. He has a shield and has a single-handed sword. And we have 2 elven bowmen. And these are Lothlorien bowmen in armor. All right, so Gorbak must survive for the orcs to win. If he survives but it does not manage to escape off the western edge, it is a partial orc victory. But in order to obtain a full victory, he has to escape from that edge. Okay, and a full elf victory is to kill Gorbak and not allow him to escape. So the orcs are deployed in 2 small groups. We have the orc captain here, Gorbak, is right in the center of all of his orc warriors. We have 3 archers in the front. And then we have a smaller group here with 1 archer. And this is going to be a sergeant, orc sergeant. And we have a smaller group of orc warriors. The Lothlorien elves are deployed very similarly in 2 small groups. We have a group of 3 armored warriors with two-handed elf swords deployed on one side of the stream. Then we have the elf archer, which is taking cover there by some of the rocks. And we have a second elf archer all the way in the back there, taking cover by that big stone. The elf captain is in front with 2 more armored warriors in the rear. We begin the game with priority. Orcs win priority the first turn. So the orc center moves first with archers in front and the rest of the orc warband following behind. They each move 5 inches at a time, with the exception of Gorbak that moves 6 inches. It is now the end of the movement phase, and all the orcs have moved cautiously forward. Gorbak, meanwhile, ends up in the stream, while archers spread to prepare for the shooting phase. However, orcs did terrible in the shooting phase. We will see that the elves did better. So the phase passes to the elves as all the orcs miss their shots. It is important to mention that elf bows have a 24-inch range, while the orc bows have a range of 18 inches. Elves also hit on a 3+ and orcs on a 5+. And the elf hits. So Gorbak is hit. In Lord of the Rings, shooting is accomplished by rolling versus a fight stat in models equipped with bows. We then roll on the wound table, strength versus the defense of the target. So we need 5s according to the table to wound Gorbak. And Gorbak takes a wound. That's the end phase to turn 1. Gorbak took an arrow wound from that elf archer, and here are the positions. This elf archer missed, was not able to hit, and then we have the captain and a couple of warriors by that rock there, and they're going to be closing the distance to the orcs. So the flanks will be closing the distance here, the flank, and then the center of the army will be moving forward. So we anticipate some heavy fighting in turn 2. So the Lorien elves are at a numerical disadvantage to the orcs. They can't afford to lose many models in this second turn, because the more models they lose, with every model that they lose, that disadvantage is going to get greater and greater. The orcs will be able to swamp them if the elves lose too many models. The orcs don't have to worry as much. They can lose a few models before they start to worry. So of course it's all going to depend on the dice gods. The orcs win priority yet again. So the move phase is over. Orc spears on the flank support the warriors in front. Gorbak meanwhile takes cover against the elf that wounded him earlier. The rest of the orcs continue to advance forward. Elf swords will soon clash with orc scimitars. But before that happens, the orc shooting phase occurs. An orc aims at the elf archer across the way and misses, hitting a rock instead. In Lord of the Rings, you roll to see if you hit any object or model that may be in the way of the shooter. And the elf captain is targeted again. And again, the orc needs 5s and misses. Gorbak is going to try to use his fate. So 1 point of fate. He has only 1 point of fate. So using that, he gets to roll the dice. He rolls a 5 and recovers the 1 wound, and so he stays on the table. That is no longer a 0. So now we have to mark off fate, because now he has no fate left. So the combat is still swirling here with the elves fighting against multiple foes. Here there were some low rolls. This elf tried to kill the archer, but he failed. He is pushed back, but there were no wounds there. Gorbak continues fighting with his 1 wound. Then we have an orc here that was killed by the 2 elf warriors. So he's taken out of the table. We still have an orc on the rock here, and a couple of orcs here. One of them has a heavy weapon, and we have the archer with the elf archer over here, still keeping that orc in his sights. And we'll see what turn 3 brings. Turn 3. Okay. Orcs go. It's a -1 to hit, but a +1 to wound. The orc rolls a 6, -1 is 5. So we now compare the stats, and the orc warrior with the, that is the large axe, he has a fight of 3. The wood elf warrior has a fight of 6, so the wood elf warrior will win. He will roll on the wound table. He needs 5s to kill this orc, and lo and behold. The fight phase continues in turn 3. We move to the next combat as an orc is killed prior. An elf is defending versus 2 orcs and wins the combat. He hits. And now, rolling a wound check, the elf needs 5s versus defense 4 of the orcs. The blow is lethal on one of the orcs. The orc is then removed. So let's just talk very briefly about that combat. We have one elf with one attack. We have two orcs. The elf is defending. We have two orcs. Each one has one attack. So we're rolling a total of 3 dice to see who wins the combat. The elf manages to win with a 6. So he wins the combat. He gets to roll his wound check, does 1 wound, kills one of the orcs. Now very quickly, let's say the orcs had won the combat. They rolled 2 dice. You consider one result to see who wins the fight, the highest result. But during the wound check, we consider all dice rolls when determining the wounds. So let's say the orcs had won. They rolled 2 wound checks. Both of those wound checks have a chance to damage the elf. Now let's skip to the shoot phase of turn 4. Elves finally win priority this turn. So a Lothlorien archer manages to wound and kill an orc during the phase. That orc archer is removed. Orcs need just 1 more casualty to roll courage tests and retreat. Now the main combat that will determine a winner, depending on who wins. So both orc captain versus elf captain. Okay. Oh, no way. Okay. Fortunately, we have to go to the fight stat of the figures to determine the winner, because this is an even score of the dice. So the elf has 6 fight, the orc captain has 5. So that means the elf wins. So now he has to roll. Now he gets 2 attacks, so he does roll 2 dice to wound. And oh man, and there is no more fate that the orc can use. Okay, the elf needed a 5, and he is going to use a point of might in order to increase one of these hits to 5. So that would be the final wound. Having lost their captain, Gorbak, the orcs retreat hastily from whence they came. On March 11th of 3019, late in the War of the Ring, Third Age, orcs from Dol Guldur attack Lothlorien. They attack with a large host, but are repelled. On March 15th, just a few days later, Dol Guldur makes a 2-prong attack, one on northern Rhovanion, realm of the Sindarin elves, and another host towards Lothlorien. That attack is also repelled on both fronts, thanks to Galadriel's powerful magic and to the prowess of the elves. On March 19th, Dol Guldur attacks Lothlorien one final time, this time doing damage to the realm's borders. But, as in all the other attempts, Dol Guldur is forced to retreat. On March 25th, the One Ring is destroyed. And, a few days later, led by Lady Galadriel and Lord Celeborn, a host of Lothlorien elves and dwarves attack the fortress Dol Guldur. This time, they level the fortress, destroying it, and destroying whatever hold Sauron had once and for all.